Welcome to the Decentralized News Show, where we cover stories that affect the crypto markets. From major headlines to DeFi rumors, we cover as much as we can to keep up with this dynamic space. As usual, there is a bunch of news, so a quick disclaimer before we get right into it. This is not financial advice, and we are not financial advisors. This content is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any investment choices. Joining me today is Adamus and Ozzy. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome.
Hello.
Let's just jump right into it. The first major headlines that we have revolve around the Fed increase and the CPI data that came out just before. The CPI data inflation eased to 7.1% in the year through November, down from 7.7% in the previous reading, and less than the 7.3% economists had expected. Decrease was led by food, energy, and used cars, but also core inflation, which strips out the more volatile food and energy, is decelerating to 6%. Rent prices remain a big driver of inflation. Were kind of some of the takeaways from that.
Yeah, that really drove the market up this week. It wouldn't look like it on the chart, but there was two really big green days based off those numbers, which was pretty impressive. But it kind of turned around pretty quick when we go back to the next piece of news. I think the fact that it's slowing down is kind of the first good sign that the market's seen. Like, it's showing that the Fed's activities are at least somewhat working, or inflation overall is just disappearing for other reasons. And so it's pretty exciting, because could mean there's an end in sight for federal interest rate hikes. So that's pretty great.
Yeah,
that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Be real nice.
Yeah.
It's the first. The Fed hiked interest rates 50 points to curb inflation, putting an end to the pattern of 75. Now the debate becomes, how long do they do this? Do they lower it even more? How long do they kind of stay at that rate? They still are talking about getting it down to 2%. They remain to say that. I don't know if you watched his speech at all.
Yeah, I watched his whole speech.
I didn't see much of it.
I watched his whole speech and listened and read some of the report that came out, and at least some of the visuals. And so they did bring it down to 50 basis points from 75 basis points, which is great. In and of itself would have been pretty bullish for the market overall. But it's just the other things that you've mentioned, just how much longer they're going to keep doing increases. They increased their projection for their top level interest rate by another 25 basis points at the last meeting. So originally it was projected between 4.8 and 5 basis points, and now it's more between 5 and 5.25 basis points. So that was like a big driver for the kind of big crash that we saw in the second half of the week this week. The other kind of
reality setting.
Yeah, because he also a lot of what
and the 0.5 was in expectation. It wasn't outside of expectation.
Exactly.
So like the other macro trends just start to come in, which generally speaking seem still negative, still bearish.
Yeah, and he just had a lot of what he said was rather hawkish during his speech. And so it's kind of with a chance that they're going to keep it at that top rate for some time before they consider pulling back. And so that's also something to kind of keep into consideration. And that's why the market reacted so poorly on Wednesday.
And they're still saying we're not in a recession and it can be avoided, but there's a lot of people that expect as we go into 2023, we may see one, and some claiming it could be a very, very bad one. So it's all over the place in terms of what could happen.
I mean, what has to happen for them to actually admit that we're actually in the recession?
Well, I think that's a hard thing to say.
Well, exactly, but these things happen. Like you can't have the boom time without having the bad times, can you? So over here in Europe, they've admitted it. They just said, yeah, we're in a recession. We've got to weather it out, and eventually things will turn around. This is, the ebbs and flows, isn't it? Like this is how life works
Well,
out
with
in
regard
these
to the
things.
Fed, in terms of how much they can do and continue to raise rates or keep rates,
Yeah,
how the overall market and whether we go, how bad of a recession we get into will matter in terms of what
exactly.
they can do. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, I mean, another kind of key piece of data that came out this week was jobless claims, new jobless claims, and they were down 20,000 below projection. So that also hurt the market because people were like, "Oh, well, that's bullish news for the market. Like it's bullish news for in terms of the
Future raising
macro economy."
future pressure on raising rates,
Yeah,
because the market's kind of looking for it to stop so it can turn around.
yeah. Basically, the whole market was hoping that it would be at expectations or above because then it would say, "Oh, the economy is getting weaker. You got to slow down. You got to take your foot off the gas. Like keep let's take a little bit of a break." And but no such luck. It came in below expectations again, and so it kind of, as much as people are saying, "Oh, we're in a like a lot of common people are saying, we're in a recession. The economy is weak, etc., etc." There's not like as much. There has been some layoffs in tech, especially, but um,
Yeah, but GDP isn't shrinking, right?
GDP isn't shrinking.
Yeah.
Um, the number of jobless claims isn't skyrocketing through the roof. Unemployment rate is still at a pretty low level compared to all previous examples. So it's kind of hard to say the Fed's wrecking the market. It's
Yeah.
wrecking the stock market, hurting
It's
the real
trying,
estate
like
market,
it's
but
trying to, but not yet.
it's not wrecking the market. Like it's not really wrecking jobs, like cutting people, like taking away people's livelihoods necessarily. So
Yeah,
Well, within this, these macro trends, there's crypto and Bitcoin and DeFi, and one of the big stories this week kind of evolved from FTX, but is Binance kind of taking over the headlines. On 12/7, according to Mazar's auditing firm, Binance reserves are back 101%. So this is back on 12/7, and just yesterday, they kind of changed. What was it? Binance Proof of Reserves. This was yesterday, 12/16. Binance Proof of Reserves auditor Mazars has suspended their services for crypto companies, and took down the report. Took down this report. And so within this week, there was just a bunch of other news about Binance. Okay, briefly, it was very brief, but Binance halted withdrawals of USDC, and then pretty quickly, I think within a half hour, withdrawals had resumed.
yeah,
This was a story from 12/13. This was before this one. Sorry. There's Because of all this kind of FUD, Binance withdrawals hit 1.9 million in a 24-hour period, which surprising was not a record. This has happened before. It was like the first time since June. That kind of surprised me about it.
well, it hit 12.6.6.5 billion over a 48-hour period
Wow.
is what it happened. But interestingly, it had almost equal inflows, or if not greater inflows, during the period. So like tons of people were pulling money out, but a bunch of people were also bringing money in, maybe to just offboard. Who knows? Like maybe trying to get off Binance chain and into cash. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. I personally took all my assets off Binance. I was using some of their earn products, but
Yeah, be careful. Anything on a centralized exchange. Just another reminder. That reminds me that CZ, I saw a tweet that he was in the Twitter space saying there are risks of not having it in a centralized exchange, that people could mess it up by taking their own security into their own hands, which was interesting because it's almost like he's trying to convince people not to take it out, like reading between the lines. But anyway, it's just been all over the
yeah, otherwise he'd have no business. So
yeah,
of course he's going to convince people to do that.
yeah.
So,
But it's interesting he was saying that. But earlier in the week, on 12/14, Binance CEO CZ sent out a letter to employees where he warned his colleagues that the company has difficult months ahead, but that will overcome the problems. I think they see the target on their back no matter what's going on right now.
But I mean, a ton of centralized exchanges have laid off staff. I mean, I think in our last show we talked about Kraken had laid off about 30% of their staff.
They're a big fish, big unregulated fish, right now.
Yeah, I mean, Bybit has talked about laying off significant staff. I know Coinbase was potentially looking at having to lay off some staff. And a bunch of big tech companies are laying off staff right now. It's
yeah, even JP Morgan as well, haven't they?
Yeah,
they've laid off staff this week as well. Like just part and parcel of it. But I think what CZ's doing is pretty good. He's managing it all well. He's keeping the communication open. Not trying to hide things, and you can check on the blockchain like the reserves that Binance has got, and you can see that it is, backed one for one sort of thing. And like you say, there's been a lot of money onboarding as well as outboarding, so they've been handling all this. Oh, okay, yeah, they had to withdraw. Sorry, had to stop withdrawals for 20 minutes, half an hour, however long it was, but it was all managed. It was all communicated, and they've been around for a while, and I've said it before. The guy's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think they just got to weather the storm. And everyone's very jumpy now after everything with FTX.
Yeah, the markets are sensitive because of that. But one of the things that's come out with these auditing firms kind of taking down a report, that kind of stuff, was about the liability side. So like the assets you're saying, right? Like that they can show proof of reserves for the assets, but the only way we know about their liabilities is just like CZ saying, oh, we don't owe anything. But then in this hearing that happened in the Senate, I think, but Kevin O'Leary spoke, and he came out and said Binance was involved in the collapse of XCX. But one of the things he mentioned in it was that CZ bought over 2 billion of FTT tokens in like a seed round, and that he sold the 500 million and kind of set this thing off. But there's still some money unaccounted for there. That's kind of come to light. Now nobody knows, but on the liability side, maybe there's not as much, it's not as clear. And it's a little bit of that, trust me, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, he did say that they were getting rid of the FTT token, like, because that's kind of, well, what O'Leary's mentioning there with saying that CZ's got, kickstarted it all, like, because I think it was on November the 5th, November the 4th, something like that. He said, we're getting short, like we don't sort of trust them, not in as many words. And so that's sort of got everyone looking into what's going on and kicked off this whole SBF thing, hasn't it? So yeah, who knows where everything comes out in the wash. We will find everything out eventually.
And I mean, Kevin O'Leary saying Binance was involved in the collapse of FTX. Sure, they talked about pulling out of FTT tokens.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to do that. Like, just to make that statement. But
I mean, the guy that got paid 15 million to do a load of adverts.
Yeah.
As well, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah. They weren't responsible for like the FTX's improper financing and misuse of customer
Oh,
funds.
yeah, I'm not trying to defend Kevin Leary's stance. That was his fault. And CZ would snap right back, say, we sold tokens. We're not allowed to sell tokens, like.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But the revelation that was interesting to me was just on that liability side, that he mentioned, nobody, I don't know if it's true, but that there was $2 billion investment originally, and maybe there's liability on Binance side, potentially.
It's not. They still haven't exactly dropped out of the headlines space just yet. I mean,
Yeah, we'll be talking about him for the next 6 months.
Yeah, there was a lot of headlines. The only ones I put in here were that Sam Bankman-Fried said he was ready to testify before the U.S. House Committee. He was going to testify on the 13th. And then right before,
MasterCard's statement about FTX kind of forcing a reboot of the industry. I mean, yeah, I mean, every time kind of there's a bear market, the industry kind of reboots. Most of the time, the first top coins and stuff like that from the previous bull market aren't the same ones the next bull market. So a lot of coins die in a bear market.
Yeah, it seems like there's change coming on the regulation side. I mean, that continues to evolve, and it's just hard to predict what it's going to look like. And this will only fuel, I think, government's realization they need to get involved, or they are going to get involved. So just sussing that all out, figuring out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see and intrigued to see what they're going to do. I don't know what it'll look like.
And then on 12/14, Tether announced that it will stop issuing loans secured by USDT in 2023 amid the fight against FUD. And it seems like it's like the assets that they claim are pegging are not on the blockchain, so it can't be confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, Tether's had a lot of FUD in the past, and it's managed to sort of survive it. Over the past sort of year and a half, I'd say there's been a few things where some sketchy things have appeared to sort of be going on, but again, then they weathered the storm and they've got through it. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this pans out. To be honest with you, but I think eventually all this stuff will just mean there will just be one sort of main stable coin eventually, and we all know which one that's most likely to be. Until the government get the mitts into it.
There's CBDCs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
maybe they can figure out a way to get the assets they have backing it onto a blockchain. I don't know.
Oracles.
I mean,
That's what
if I was the
Chainlink does.
government, well, if I was the government, I'd just take over either USDC or USDT. Like, just buy them out and just take them over, and because you got the
Well, you can take it
infrastructure
over,
out.
and there's nothing there though, and then you're on the hook for it.
Well, this is it. Sort of just get involved and just do it. Like, there's got to be a way. Like, rather than doing something from the ground up that you don't know how to do it, and you don't know what you're doing. Just like the Borg from Star Trek, just assimilate them.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh at Coinbase's comments because Coinbase owns part of USDC. Like it's a part
DC,
owner
yeah,
in
exactly.
the business
Yeah.
that provide in Circle, which provides USDC. So
Interesting.
really, it's just trying to shore up its own accounts by telling people uh to go to USDC. It's really it was a greed move more than a FUD move. Like if you had any like anyone that's using Coinbase would probably fall for that, but like anyone in the greater
Yeah.
crypto community probably
Yeah.
can
It's a
realize.
great power play for sure.
Yeah, well, because I mean, but it's a power play because Binance did the same thing with USDC, converting it to BUSD.
Yeah.
So when they paused withdrawals the other day, like it was on USDC on ETH, like, but because they don't really support USDC anymore, they really just support BUSD and USDT. So it was just a weird. It's some power plays on which stablecoin is gonna be the survivor.
Win the war, exactly.
It's
All right,
pretty interesting.
well, we're talking about war. Let's do the bearish because there's some fun bullish news. I threw this in there just because it's Canada. Microsoft banned the mining of cryptocurrency through its services. And then this was, I thought, interesting. U.S. regulators warned about risk of deeper crypto Wall Street ties. So the Financial Stability Oversight Council of United States federal government watchdog says the FTX collapse had minimal impact, which I don't know about that. Minimal impact on mainstream finance, but that going forward, as the risks may grow as entanglements increase. So more and more, as you know, if these kind of big frauds keep happening in DeFi, more and more will affect traditional markets.
Yeah, I mean, we still got Genesis that's
That seems pretty obvious.
totally like still unresolved, at least publicly. So
Yeah, that's true. Nothing's really
it's kind of like
kind of
that's a
bad.
big Wall Street piece that is
For sure, yeah.
looming over everyone. So
Yeah, I kind of feel like it may get brushed under the rug a little bit. Like if we don't talk about it for a while, it'll sort of disappear, and then they'll magically have sorted something out in a few months' time.
The market turns around, it'll be all right. Or if it takes another big dip,
Exactly.
maybe that'll be the final thing that knocks it out.
Yeah, that'll be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah. All right, let's get into the bullish. I'm gonna start off with this one. Just to remind you, you're still early. 13% of Americans have invested in cryptocurrency. This at JP Morgan, and that's half. Doesn't mean 13% own cryptocurrencies right now. It's probably a smaller number. And on the worldwide stage, 4.5% of the entire global population is invested in cryptocurrency, or only 4.5%.
that's,
all right.
I mean, that's pretty good for if you think about your options. If you're here and you're active in the community, you're really early. Like if you wanna, you've got a chance. Just preserve your capital, be smart. Maybe don't blow all your money in degen plays right now, and because you're early, and there's a really good chance for upward movements from here. Maybe not immediately,
Is
but
there even any degen plays? Is there even any going on? I think everything's dried up.
Oh, here
no,
you
there's
go.
a few. There's a few.
Here you go. Here's a degen NFT
yeah.
play. You could have
Oh, well, there we go.
On 12/15, Donald Trump presented an
Oh,
NFT
God.
collection. 45,000 collection, sold out in 24 hours at $99 a piece. Currently selling, when I checked before the show, I was watching it last night too. It was at 0.25 ETH last night. We're at 0.44, or about $600. So it's at about 6x and still pumping. I haven't let it in the last hour or so, but that was interesting. And it's nothing to do with his campaign. Money doesn't go to his campaign. It just goes to him personally.
I mean, that's huge.
That's kind of. I have not.
Huge.
And I read an article when it first came out. It was just totally fun. And just like, even his advisors were like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And then boom, on the DeFi crypto sense, huge success, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
what I
mean,
just
to be
said,
fair, the
right?
pictures are quite funny. I have seen a few of the pictures, and they are quite funny. Like, I'll give him that.
Uh,
Fair play if you made money on it. Well done. So,
Yeah.
I did not. I didn't
happy
buy
with
one.
that.
I was busy. I mean, I probably would have, but
Like
yeah.
just on a philosophical level, I would feel really weird. Like there's such a love-hate relationship between Trump and everywhere in the world that I felt like that I could see a bunch of people buying it and then trying like selling it for like under floor price just to keep dropping the price. I don't know.
Oh, like it could get manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's just like all things are on the table, right? Like, all possibilities. But yeah, I could also see it bringing adoption to the space, and a lot of really rabid Trump followers being like, oh, I want one of those, and figuring out MetaMask and getting an NFT, They
And a
want a
bunch of
chance. I mean,
people
it's a
getting
chance to meet him
scammed.
or a phone call with him,
A bunch of people getting scammed or clicking phishing links. Who
Yeah,
knows?
well, that's out there in Web 2.0. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, we can move on from Trump. That was fun though. Telegram also launched sales of an anonymous numbers on the fragmented blockchain platform. TON, which is their coin, I believe it's their own blockchain, is up 50% over the last week. The reason for the recent pump of, I don't know how to pronounce it, but TON coin could be a feature of Telegram, which was announced last week.
It's been
Pavel
pumping.
Durov, huh?
It's been pumping. Their
Yeah.
coin has been, I think it's like 3x this week. It was nuts.
Yeah, so they introduced a feature for Telegram that allows users to buy an anonymous phone number with the token and create an account with it. So they get rights to the phone number, and that's their, I guess that's their identity. Yeah, but interesting. Yeah, I'm not a big Telegram user, but I thought it was an interesting story all the same. Bitcoin Lightning Network expansion will be used for fiat transfers between the EU and Africa. I did not dig into that story, so I don't have much on that. According to CoinDesk, PayPal will integrate its crypto services with the MetaMask wallet. So PayPal and MetaMask. According to the press release, the partnership between the payments firm and MetaMask is for ETH, basically. The offering is designed to facilitate seamless purchase and transfers of Ether from PayPal to MetaMask. So not every chain, but it's an ETH adoption. Let's see. We had an ETF launch in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong launched trading of the first crypto ETF. This is still a futures exchange traded fund. It has some connection to the Chicago Mercantile too, maybe in the where they get their price or something. So it's for BTC and ETH, and it is not a spot ETF. But there's some adoption there. And this one I thought was a pretty interesting story. The Bank of International Settlements announces a new policy that allows banks to hold 2% of reserves in cryptocurrencies. If you're not familiar with the Bank for International Settlements, it's an international financial institution owned by central banks. So essentially, it's like the central bank of central banks. And this is one way to put it. So 73 central banks representing 95% of the world GDP can hodl. The policy covers the policy covers several aspects of how cryptocurrencies are to be defined and will take effect January 1st, 2025. So it doesn't seem to be immediately in effect. And earlier in June, the Bank of International Settlements announced introduction of crypto assets and reserves, which limited banks to hold not more than 1%. So it's looks like it's an increase from their previous stance, from 1% to 2%.
Yeah,
I thought that was weird.
It's interesting. I mean, it kind of goes with the move to CBDCs. More and more countries. I mean, I think at this point I've heard
Central
about
banks want
20
to be able to
countries.
hold CBDCs.
Yeah, basically giving central banks the
Bitcoin,
power
maybe.
to hold their own CBDC. So to me, it's not. It's in line with other moves that are being made by banks and nations at this point. It'll be interesting. I mean, 2025 is a long way away. I mean, so
It's not banning it though. So, and it's a big financial, worldwide
institution, that's for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
big one.
for banking and money. So, yeah, I mean,
an option, isn't it? So,
yeah,
it's cool.
All right, we can get into some chain news now. Solana, which is currently around 12.5, number 15 in market cap at 4.5 billion. This came out saying Solana has lost 95% of its developers from 2,453 down to 75. This is according to Token Terminal, and this is across the space. The number of active developers of mainstream blockchain has dropped from 3,700 to 1,600, but mainly because Solana developers have dropped so much.
Yeah, I mean, Solana had such a big fall with everything with a ton of money being tied up with FTX and everything. Alameda Research held over $600 million worth of Solana token, so it's taken a beating. It's kind of, it's one of those tokens in my eyes that are probably not had such a big rise in the last market and probably won't be a big player in the next one. They had too many issues with DDoS attacks. Too many.
Yeah, and why would developers leave? It's like they're not getting paid.
Just jumping ship, aren't they?
Yeah, that's just.
So think back to when the network kept going down, and like you say, all these attacks and everything, and that's when they had loads of developers. Now they've got like 75. They're really going to struggle unless if they come out with some mega incentives.
I wonder what percentage of those developers hack their way out.
Well, yeah.
But that is a metric that I've seen, especially for ADA, Solana, I guess layer 2s or layer 1s. Like how many developers, like trying to get a sense for which one's popular for the developers, trying to predict price movement in the future. So let's see. Going on to another one of these competitors. Ethereum, the Shanghai hard fork is scheduled for March 2023. The update will allow investors to withdraw ETH from staking.
That's good because a bunch of people were fighting this about a couple months back, mainly on Twitter, saying it was a way like that the hard fork was delayed until potentially end of 2023, early 2024, and as a way to basically lock up ETH and like basically force hodl a bunch of people.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, ETH hard forks have been delayed multiple times before. I mean,
Well, there's that you bring that up, and I'll just read this additional part when I read this story. There are technical aspects within the upgrade that can get pushed back without delaying the end of staking. So there's a bunch of things going on, and it really does get very technical. I couldn't even describe it to you, but there's at least some sense that they can still do the unstaking and delay some of this other stuff.
okay, so that's interesting, yeah, because I mean, the shift to proof of stake was supposed to
Doesn't mean they
happen.
won't delay it, but
Yeah, the shift from proof of stake to now, like from proof of work to proof of stake, was delayed. I think at least 3 or 4 times before it happened. So, um, it'll be kind of interesting. Hopefully it happens though, because I think that's really bullish. That's really bullish for like people wanting to create ETH validator nodes.
oh, I see. Yeah, because then they'll have, which the more ETH validators, essentially they become less valuable, though, right?
Well, no, it helps the network. It'll help support the network. It'll like right now I'd be very worried about creating an ETH validator node because I don't know when I'll get the rewards to be able to pay the power costs of running the validator node, etc., etc. But then,
But isn't it the more validator nodes there are, the value you get out of return from them goes down?
to a certain
The sheer
extent,
number.
but with sharding, which is also part of the Shanghai hard fork, you'll be able to process more transactions, which will allow for ETH to potentially generate more rewards for validators in a sense. Like it'll bring down gas fees for users, but will reward validators. It'll create more reward incentives for validators because they can do more transactions per second.
Wait, are you talking about proto dank sharding?
Yes, that is the name.
Well, so
Name.
what I read in the story is developers also agreed to a second hard fork for the fall of 2023 coming later that addressed another significant scaling upgrade, proto dank sharding, also known as EIP 4844. I like proto dank sharding. This would make Ethereum more scalable through sharding, a method that splits up the network into shards as a way to increase the capacity and bring down gas fees, just like you described.
Yeah,
I guess that's coming on the next fork. But they kind of were announced and talked about it a little bit that it's going to happen.
yeah, they're a big part. They're kind of a lot of people see like the move of to proof of stake was kind of necessary to be able to allow sharding, and sharding is kind of seen as a way not only to incentivize scale and incentivize usage, but also make it just that much more like be able to reward validators more at the same time. So it should be pretty good to see once it's all done. But it'll take some time, that's for sure. But I do see ETH at one point displacing Bitcoin as the number one crypto and the market leader because ETH really has a use case, and I mean most layer twos that I see surviving through this bear market are mainly ETH layer twos. You know, BNB is still around. AVAX is hanging in there, but like if you're talking about a really strong coin, you're talking Polygon, for example. And Polygon's kind of the next chain we're talking about, and they've had tons of bullish news, and I mean, their value has dropped only about 33% in the bear. Like at the moment, it's only about 33% down from its all-time high. So that's a lot better than a lot of other chains. I mean, if you look at AVAX is trading around $13, and AVAX is trading at $113. So, kind of interesting things to keep your eye on. But I mean, Jewel Bank issuing a stablecoin on Polygon. Every project that I've heard, any collaboration is kind of announcing
On Polygon.
work on
Yeah.
Polygon. It's all Polygon.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit on Jewel Bank through a strategic partner. It's launching, like you said. Jewel Bank is Bermuda's first digital asset bank approved by the Bermuda Monetary Authority, the BMA. It's important because Jewel Bank will be the first non-U.S. bank to issue stablecoins directly against bank deposits. When I looked into that story, it was an interesting adoption. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up all the chain news. There was not much in the DeFi news and rumors. I don't know. Is there anything you guys have seen around DeFi that you want to bring up?
DeFi's been pretty quiet. There's lots of
Yeah.
little things going, but I mean, seen
Yeah,
a
like
few new
Horde.
projects going.
Horde closed their migration process. That was one that Yield Nodes is doing their returns. They've had some updates, but they have a process open where you can try to get some payout on your Yield Nodes. I haven't tried to use it, but yeah, there was one interesting story. A Bitcoiner from Switzerland implanted a chip in his hand for crypto payments. You hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. I thought that was, I mean, shift to biometrics, cyborgs kind of thing. Seems like it, feels like it. That's for sure.
He was an IT professional. I guess he does presentations for payment systems. So it's kind of like he's kind of just experimenting with it, and he's comfortable with it. But it's just kind of fun for him and like a wow moment when he presents, about the possibilities.
Yeah.
But he's not necessarily like everyone should do this. It's not necessary.
People love sticking stuff in themselves, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, why not put it like removable on your skin or something on the outside?
Well,
Why
because
does it have
then
to
you
be
could it'd be stolen. Like someone could rip it
Yeah.
off your skin.
What you could like a temporary tattoo QR code. You don't need a permanent.
Just your thumbprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends, because interesting story. My cousin, he's much younger than I am, but I was visiting him, and he could use his thumbprint to unlock my phone.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so like I at one point, like I I handed him my phone and just to check the time. He said he just wanted to check the time, and he unlocked my phone. I'm like, how did you unlock my phone? And he's like, with my thumb.
Thumb twins. I like it.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't know. I don't feel like I trust, at least not on. I don't know if the thumb printing technology, like thumb readers, that we've got on
Yeah.
phones and stuff like that, are ready for that just yet.
I mean, there's been guys that have been doing these chips inside them with your credit card details, or NFC stuff, like what you have in your phone for contactless payments and things like that. Like that's been around for about 10, 15 years. There's been people doing that. So it's the logical next step, isn't it? I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, next step in this new world created by Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi, sorry. Kind of the last story we have here today. 13 years ago this week, Satoshi Nakamoto left his last message on Bitcoin Talk Forum and disappeared forever. So he created something that is still going, hasn't touched in 13 years, like a decentralized thing that he has had no control over. It's pretty impressive, honestly, when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I
It's a
can't
total
believe
life of its own.
Yeah, and it's crazy
still
because
going.
people still don't know who he is.
His
Oh,
first
great.
book, I looked into like a history of his posts. So there's a website that has every post Satoshi Nakamoto ever made. His first post was 1/8/2000. No, I'm sorry. on Halloween 2008. And then 13 years ago would have been 2010. So in about two and a couple months was when he originally posted about, what was it, on a cryptography mailing list, where he introduced the idea. I think he called it eCash or something, electronic cash system. I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. Double spending is prevented with peer-to-peer network, no mint or other trusted parties. Participants can be anonymous. The new coins are made from Hashcash style proof of work. I don't know what that is. Proof of work for new coin generation also powers the network to prevent double spending. And a little abstract, it's like one paragraph long. That was his first post. And bitcoin.org, Bitcoin PDF. That's how it started. And here we are today, gentlemen.
People are putting chips in their hands and buying coffees and getting the loyalty reward points as NFTs. Fantastic.
Well, cool, guys. Well, if there's anything else you want to add before we say goodbye and close this up for today?
Well, don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel. We've been producing this content for a while now, but we've just moved to our new home. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, as well as YouTube, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Ozzy, Adamus, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us on the Decentralized News Show. We will see you next week as we continue to cover this dynamic space. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.